Man, assalamu alaikum. About 9:45. Let's all do it again. Girls will be girls. Cute ponytails and girls. Good times. Just can't wait. You silly boy. Let's go and shit the book. What's up, what's up, what's up? ScoonTv family. BT Wash, what's up? UND FT Gordon, what's up? Now Rogers, yes, musical genius. You gotta check out the criminalization of rap documentary on ScoonTV exclusively. Download the app. You know, I did the article and now we got the documentary to complement it. And it talks about the creation of sampling laws due to Sugar Hill Gang's sampling of this song for Rapper's Delight. Something that had never been done before because creatives never used other people's music. And they didn't just take a piece of it. They took the entire instrumental, recorded their own vocals, and released it. And there was no law against it. And it created an entire industry that has paid so many artists. I mean, George Clinton from Parliament, he's been eating off of that forever. James Brown as well. And there's a lot of others. There were some people who didn't okay the sample clearances. Gordon, you gotta read the article as well. The article is in the town hall, but the documentary is in the features. The documentary is actually based off the article, but it has the visuals to support it. You know? All right, let me check out my app family. I've been giving YouTube and other platforms a little attention. What's up, Mumia? Assalamu alaikum. News is dead. Glasgow, Cajonas, roll call. Darnita, hey, what's up, William? Rich, my man, what's up? David Henry, Callie in the house, what's up? All right, where we at? Let me see. Hey, News, I like the doc, the visuals. I mean, a lot of people need the visuals, you know, because they weren't there and they need to see certain things for the words to have weight to it. And it was well done. Appreciate you, brother. Been in Tallahassee, Florida the past month. Oh, training, okay. Juvenile justice, man. You know, those juveniles can be worse than the adults. You know? Yeah, they really can. So be safe. What we got? Who is the bigger fraud, 50 Cent or Rick Ross? You know, I don't want to call them frauds. I want to call them actors, performers. And when it comes to performing, and I don't mean musical performance, I just mean role playing. I think Rick Ross might have 50 beat. You know, none of them are actually the people that they portray themselves to be. But, you know, it's entertainment. And I feel like the people who buy into it, they're the, well, let me stop this song. This song goes on for about 20 minutes. No, just kidding. What's up, ScoonTv family? This is the weekly live stream. Let's officially get it started. So now, yeah, to finish the answer to your question, William, I think the rapper Rick Ross is a hell of an actor, because when it came out that he worked in as a correction officer in a correctional facility, his explanation was, how do you think I met the plug? You know, like, you know, he it's so comical. I mean, you got to look at him, and you could tell he's just a really basic dude. And I don't know if he writes his lyrics or if he genuinely is talented. He does have some good songs. He made some money, and these guys, they reinvent themselves, all of them. Whether it be Irv Gotti, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre. You know, when you see Dr. Dre in that group that he was in before NWA, he was wearing eyeliner and, you know, looking very androgynous. It is what it is, man. Even Tupac, he went to the High School of Performing Arts. Tough guys don't go to those schools. Actors go to those schools, you know, and they study certain things and they find their niche, and sometimes they get lost in character. And that's a lot of rappers, right? They're like method actors. Only thing, it's not a movie. You never hear cut, and they have to bury the real them. At least that's how it was. Some of these new guys, they're really special. Maybe they, you know, maybe they just really are who they portray themselves to be. I mean, they sound ignorant enough to actually be those people, you know? Yeah, I come up with the rehabilitation intervention for the youth. Okay. 7 years old. Wow. You know, being a dad at this late, a newborn dad at this late, you know, I'm more empathetic than I used to be. And I kind of feel the pain for them kids, whatever trauma they went through that got them lashing out like that, you know? Yeah. Cojones, what's up? Most of these hip hop moguls and rappers are just actors, correct? I don't know much about Jay Prince. What I know about him, I learned from other entertainers who have always put him on a pedestal as a way of making themselves look like connected to something. I can't say that I've ever heard anything bad about him, you know, but I just typically feel, you know, and this is no shot at him or anybody else, but if you make your reputation, you know, bullying suckers, I think your gangster got an asterisk next to it, you know, and that's just how I see it. It don't take nothing to scare people who wake up scared, you know. So you're not going to impress me, not me personally, with that, you know. These guys are begging to be extorted. So if you're accommodating them, I mean, kudos to you. It doesn't mean that you're not who you say you are, but it just don't convince somebody like me, you know? Oh yeah, Donita, I stay giving them hell. I do it deliberately, by the way, you know? Anytime there's a fight, and it's because I understand the underlying motivation for what they do. When you look at them, the reason why I call them the boxing bigots, you got to look at who they criticize, right? It's going to be Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence, Tank Davis, Boo Boo Andrade, and Devin Haney, and even sometimes Shakur Stevenson. Now, I'm not a fan of all of these guys, but I'm really good at recognizing patterns. And the reason why they criticize them, it's not just that they're black, right? It's because those guys make money, are in demand, and they don't have to fight the fighters from Top Rank or Golden Boy to make money. So it is really an attack on their marketplace value. And you will see whenever there's some kind of cross-promotional fight involving Golden Boy or Top Rank with these black fighters who have been marketed. We're not talking about who's the best fighter, right? That's decided in the ring. But we're talking about marketing, the fighters who can sell. And there's an envy and jealousy because Al Heyman has succeeded in marketing his fighters. He does it with just pay-per-view. Whereas Top Rank had an ESPN deal and no, they didn't have the matchups that made the public pay attention. And we're speaking about the economics of boxing right now. The money is made from casual fans, not hardcore purists. No, there's not enough of them to make the sport profitable and lucrative. It's about marketing to the general public. And for whatever reason, PBC has been more effective with that. I'm not saying PBC fighters are better or any of that. But what I don't appreciate is that in order for promoters like Oscar De La Hoya and Bob Arum to promote the fighters that they choose to sign, because they can go after the other fighters as well, but they don't. They have to denigrate the PBC fighters. And then when they get a matchup with them, they want ridiculous splits. Nobody knows your fighters. But you want a 50%, 50-50 split and all of these things. And it's to the point that where the black fighters have to work extra hard to accommodate them. What most people don't like is that, you know, these guys are making money without them. You see, Devin Haney, in order to get a title shot, he went to Australia twice and took a 20% split. No Mexican, no Eastern European, none of them will ever take a 20% split to fight a black fighter. Instead, they'll spend their time trying to convince the public, the paying public, right, that the black fighters aren't that good. They haven't fought anyone. Their resume is no good. And I recognize the tactics, and I know where it's coming from. And just as a black man, I don't even know these fighters, promoters, or anything, but anytime I see that type of stuff at play, I feel like it's my duty to counteract it And that's what I do. What's up, Dusko? John C. Baldwin, what's up? Thank you, sir. Your son is very lucky to have you and Mrs. Schooner's parents. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to break the cycle, man. You know, I had a conversation with a friend of mine earlier. He's actually a sergeant in the police down in Georgia. And I met him in Georgia. I met him while I was selling DVDs. And he let me sell my movies and stuff. And we became really good friends. I was on his wedding line. He attended my wedding. You know what I mean? Like, it's been like 20 years now. But he's a sergeant. And I was telling him that's what's going on with me. That I'm just trying to, I'm trying to set an example for my son how to move morally right, you know? And we hear so much talk on finances and all that stuff, but we need finances. I'm not dismissing it. I'm not somebody that's like, nah, money isn't everything, you know? Anthony, what's up with you, man? Big up yourself. Look, but it's like we got to give them the foundation, so when the money comes, it doesn't corrupt them. Because if you don't have a foundation and you get this money, man, you might be too far gone for anybody to save you. You know, yeah, that's how it is. They're already starting school here. Yep. I know in Georgia they starting school. Brian Singleton, what's up with you, bro? On the YouTube side, it's okay. It's all good. What's the agenda? Why are schools looking to start so early here in the South? Well, Glasgow, they let them out early. At least that's what I remember. They were finished like in May. And they finished a month later up north. Like when I was in school in New York, I got out of school late June, like sometime June 28th. I remember that day for a reason, you know? Yeah, Anthony, reinstall the app, man. Do that. I think they just on a different schedule. That's all. They go to school earlier because they get out earlier, unless something has changed, because that's what I noticed when I was living down there in Georgia, by the way. What's happening with Roland Martin? Yeah, I saw that. Me personally, I don't think Roland is into women. He doesn't act like it. I mean, some of the sordid details of his encounter of his sex tape kind of supports my theory, but I'm not going to get into that lowbrow stuff. But Roland, he must, it's kind of like Tyler Perry. You know where Tyler Perry had a scandal with a woman? And we all know that Tyler Perry isn't really interested in women. So sometimes these scandals are put out to get in front of something of a completely different nature. They need parents to work a form of babysitting, and also the number of students depend on how much money the school gets. The kids represent dollars. Oh, okay. You're talking about, let me go back here. I guess you're talking about something that's going on what Glasgow is speaking on. Okay. Speaking of gangster rappers, a few days ago I saw Breakfast Club report on Diddy getting into that fight in prison. And as they were reporting it, DJ Envy kept saying Diddy is for real. He gets busy, blah, blah. All I can think about is the story you told about the dude who spit on him. Yeah, that was Michael Concepcion. He's a dude from LA, supposedly a Crip. He spit on Diddy, and Diddy didn't do anything. In fact, Diddy went to Suge, and Suge tried to talk to Mike, and Mike blew him off. And keep in mind that Mike was rolling around by himself damn near the whole weekend, and he was carrying everybody. So the stories I hear, I tend to believe them just by how, the people from LA, they gave him his reverence, his respect. Now Diddy, oh yeah, we're gonna get to the DSA zombies, Roland Martin, Keyshawn Davis Duckett. Oh man, yes, we're gonna do it all. But Diddy, I think what has happened with Diddy is that the more successful he's become, the more confident. And the more confident he's become, the less confident people are in challenging him, because they've kind of like made money their god, so he has more money than them. Also, keep in mind, I don't know if Revolt still broadcast The Breakfast Club, but they used to, and Revolt was his network. There is a relationship between Diddy and the people at The Breakfast Club. And for instance, Asia and myself, we were on The Breakfast Club. That was, I believe, something that Jay-Z made happen. But our episode never aired on Revolt. And I believe Diddy stopped that from happening. Yeah. Because of the things I say, I'll tell y'all a story, right? I'm not going to say the person's name because they haven't done anything to me. But in 2014, I was on Twitter and I was speaking about an A-list rapper who rode around Los Angeles, and he would have sex with young Spanish guys of a slight build. And lo and behold, that person hit me in my DMs and said, send me a number. So I sent them my number and they called me. And they offered me a radio show and this, that. Never spoke on anything that I was saying. But what happened was they thought I was about to out them. And I wasn't going to do that. I know so much stuff about so many people, but I don't, I'm not Wendy Williams or nothing like that. But they all better stay in their place though, because they don't fool me. They may fool their fans and all of that, but I know who they are. And not just the entertainers, even the street dudes. Like, I know, yeah. I know who's for real and who's not, and who's out here pump faking. But I don't, it's not my thing to go around like exposing people for no reason. But that might be why nobody ever really, I sued 50 Cent. I did. You can look it up. I sued him. I took him to court. And I lost. But 50 has never said anything bad about me ever in public. Not before that, not after that. And when do you know 50 to hold his tongue? 50 has spoken ill of Supreme McGriff. 50 has spoken ill of Jimmy Henchman. He speaks ill of everybody. He doesn't care. But he never said a word about me, though. What we got here? Yeah, Dusko Peace. Rolling the Boule Butterball Martin. That's funny. Yo, look. Cojones is not just rolling. They all have lost their usefulness to the Democrats and the Boule. The Boule has lost its usefulness, man. It's about celebrities now and streamers and podcasters. Stephen A. Smith is more influential than 100 Boule. And that's the power of technology. And there's a shift. Boule members used to be people who were legitimately, intelligent. That's right. I'll never out them over fuckery. That's right. For sure. But Boule members used to be, reputable people. They had businesses. They employed people. Like John Johnson, who owned Ebony and Jet. They had those type of industries, businesses that were forged during segregation. So they were able to amass wealth because black people weren't allowed to go spend their money anywhere else. And the irony of what the Boule did by pushing for integration is that they undermined their own economic infrastructure, be it the Negro Leagues, be it black media, be it anything. They owned hotels, they owned sports arenas, they owned all of these things because the segregated dollar had no choice but to recirculate amongst its own. And the very smartest in the group, they would get all the money, but they wanted to integrate so bad that they were willing to do it to their own detriment. And I was speaking about it earlier that what kind of happened is that the black elite, they switched, they exchanged their own economic infrastructure for government reliance. And they got it in the form of, government contracts and government jobs and all of that. But here we are in 2026. Here we are in 2026. The government jobs are shrinking. We're not getting the government contracts anymore. And we no longer have the economic infrastructure where we will provide an opportunity for ourselves, our own people. No, they weren't glamorous jobs, but now we are wholly reliant on the government. So when the government says they're cutting food stamps, cutting Section 8, everyone's in an uproar because they don't have any other options. And they don't have other options because they gave them away. And that's just what it is. Do I think there should be some type of compensation for those individuals who had to take the COVID shot to maintain employment? Biden created a law. Well, he extended the liability protection for the pharmaceutical manufacturers of the vaccine. And by the way, I don't believe Pfizer or Moderna developed those vaccines. I think it was given to them to dispense, but I don't think they did it. And he's extended that liability protection to 2029. So when you think about the fact that he gave Fauci a preemptive pardon, and Fauci pled the fifth 111 times before the Senate. That plus that liability extension there, if I took the vax, I'd be very concerned. And to directly answer your question, in order to get compensation, you would have to prove that there's some kind of vaccine injury. And the data that can prove vaccine injury is being suppressed. But they're buying time. They're kicking the can down the road. And Luc Montagnier, the French immunologist, Nobel laureate, when the vaccine was being rolled out, he had expressed something to the effect, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, because what he said hasn't happened. He had said that everyone who took the vaccine would be deceased in 3 to 5 years. This is what Luke said. Luc Montagnier. You guys can pull it up. And of course, he died a few months after he said it. And this is a guy that got a Nobel Prize for immunology and all of this stuff, right? Look, and that's what he said. And there's a lot of people who took the vaccine that's still alive, so it would mean that he's wrong. But I also have a theory about that. I think some of the batches were placebos. So they had the lot numbers and they had all of these things. I think some batches were placebos and some weren't. And I think a lot of people did die who took the vaccine, but the deaths end up being blamed on the COVID virus. See, people were dying with COVID, but not necessarily from COVID. And if you had a lot of comorbidities, as they called it, maybe this vaccine exacerbated it. I don't know. I can't explain it because I'm not a doctor. But I know all of the controversy and doubt that's coming to the surface now, I had right off the break. They were giving people French fries. Well, Bill de Blasio was, to take the vaccine. In Baltimore, they had a program that was giving like $100 to pregnant people who took the vaccine. You could tell this was an experiment. At best, it was an experiment. And I wouldn't take it. Long story short, to answer your question, Dusko, I think they're pushing it to 2029 because something major or something worse is going to happen before 2029. That's going to make that not a non-issue. Those are just my thoughts. What's up, Orlando? Good to see you, sir. How are you? Yeah, your mother-in-law probably, watches a lot of The View and shows like that. Yeah, Anthony, I saw that. There's the hashtag died suddenly that shows a lot of that stuff, Jason Whitlock is another one of those dudes. Oh, yeah. Who you never outed, even though you have your reason to. Randy Undisputed. I never saw anything gay about Jason. I've only been around Jason in person maybe 3 times. No, 4. Twice in DC and twice in LA. Yep. And one time I went to the White House with him. I don't know, but he doesn't have a wife, he doesn't have kids. That doesn't mean anything. I don't know anything about his dating life. I don't know what's up with him, man. I don't. But I've never seen anything that made me think that he's gay. I just think he's an incel, but I don't think he's gay though. But he could be. You never know. You see, I never paid that much attention to him, and also like in my line of work in mental health, I'm around people who are LGBT, and what I noticed is that when I come around, they kind of straighten up a little bit. They try to act a little more masculine, like they don't flame out around me. You know what I mean? So, and I mean, I'm not around them often, but the few times I could tell they try to be a little bit more masculine around me. And You know, to be honest, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. You know, look, so I'm starting to get the Erica Kirk vibes from Nolan Wells' mother. Um, you know, Cojones, I haven't paid a lot of attention about with Nolan Wells' mom. I just know that there's something weird about his death. And what's weird about it is deeper than he's black and his friends are white. The story doesn't add up to me. You know, I don't know if I don't want to sound like too far out, but I, is he dead? Do we know that? When you see Sharpton and Ben Crump, and I saw her like the mom, like almost giggling, you know, one time talking about it. His father doesn't have the same last name as him. The mother, her name is Wells hyphen whatever. I don't know. It just something doesn't seem right. This guy's in community college. He's hanging out with these rich white kids. They leave him. They bring back the phone. I don't know. I don't want to say something because maybe none of it has anything to do with anything. But there's a lot going on in this world that is deliberate and designed to trigger us and get a reaction out of us. And I would hate for this Nolan Wells case to be one of those, just like the Trayvon Martin case, you know, just like Emmett Till. Do you know, like 100 days after Emmett Till, the civil rights movement, the boycotts and stuff officially started? And that story didn't make sense. They're from Chicago or somewhere up there, and they're down south visiting, and this 14-year-old black boy, or however old he was, whistles at a white woman, and then they kill him for that. Does that sound right? You know, don't sound right to me. He wasn't whistling at white women up in Chicago. Turns out Emmett Till's mother was an Eastern Star. And that gets dismissed because you know what black folks say? Well, my grandmama was an Eastern Star. All black women back then, maybe they was all up to some bullshit too. You don't know what was going on. Maybe they don't even know what they was a part of. But Trayvon Martin's father was a Freemason. And that's why I asked about Nolan Wells' parents. I wanted to know, were they in fraternities, sororities, lodges? What was really going on with them? You know, in this world, parents sometimes sacrifice their kids. Sometimes they have to. They don't have a choice. It's part of the oath that they take. Like you take Tyler Robinson with Charlie Kirk. There's something funny about Tyler Robinson's father and the whole situation with Tyler Robinson. There's something going on. And a lot of us, because we wouldn't personally do something, we don't even take into consideration that this is a possibility. Because we immediately go to our default setting that, you know what, I wouldn't do that. Okay, but we're not talking about you. D.L. Hughley embracing Mamdani, praising him. I'm not surprised. D.L. Hughley is, he's like a Roland Martin. Something ain't right with him either. I think he's a a Q Dog. I know Roland is an Alpha. They all belong to these cliques, you know. I was very disappointed because Eric Adams, who I came out in support of, he was in Minnesota trying to convince them to get data centers, and they booed him, rightfully so. The only thing that told me is that Eric Adams is he's one of them. He's not grassroots. He's a company man. You know, and that was very disappointing. It really was. I started suspecting it when on September 10th last year, the day before 9/11, Eric Adams had a bunch of Muslims, and he said he wanted the Prophet Muhammad's birthday to be a holiday. Now, you know that wasn't going to win you any votes in New York City. And it looked to me like he was deliberately trying to sabotage his own campaign. Mamdani is who the establishment wanted. Never mind that they act like they don't. They always throw stones and hide their hands. He's who they wanted, and he's going to do the job that they need done, and everybody's going to blame him, and he'll go back to Uganda with a bunch of money and be okay. Yeah, Dusko, they sacrifice their kids, man. A lot of people do. You know, of all colors. It's all about, they're members of some kind of belief system, cult, if you will. And it's ancient. And this is what they do. If you study, like, even the Aztecs and Incas, like, they would sacrifice children to their gods. Yeah. Sacrifice people, but children. You know, that was a powerful sacrifice because the children are innocent. Well, Orlando, you gotta watch the data center documentary. It's in the ScoonTV app. Go to features and check it out. We cover all of that, man. Oh, have my views on Detroit stayed the same? Man, listen. That one made me scratch my head. There's a scandal right now in Detroit. The current mayor, Mary Sheffield, her father is embroiled in some kind of scandal. It seems like the story's being suppressed, but he is alleged to have taken a $75,000 bribe from an Arab. And I didn't even really follow it. I'm not sure what he was supposed to do because it just didn't interest me that much. But then there's this other situation that's going on up there that the mayor herself, one of her exes, is, I don't know, he's posting stuff on social media that has her in an unflattering light. And it's very juvenile, you know, but it's a reflection. It's a reflection of the caliber of people who are reaching places that they should never have been in the first place, right? And in an earlier discussion about all of this, what it comes down to is the lowering of the bar. And we spoke about this last week regarding the colleges. The bar was lowered so much that people who didn't belong in college were getting into college. But it's not just colleges. It's government. It's everything. You know, it's every level of education. You know, we're blaming the kids failing on, you know, a lot of different things, but there's been an across the board lowering of standards. And take the being an attorney. Now they want to get rid of the bar because they want people to just, finish law school and automatically become lawyers. These systems, these thresholds they are there to assure quality. And in politics, a lot of these people who are getting elected, they don't belong there. When you look at black politicians from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, you can see the progressive decline because black achievers prior to the end to the end of segregation, they knew how to build. They understood business fundamentals. They were intellectually solid. And once you started rewarding people in the name of inclusion for just checking a box, well, there goes your quality control with everything. And now we got, what's her name, LaTanya Cantrell, who was the mayor of New Orleans. She's sleeping with her police security guard while her husband is dying of cancer, allegedly. And we got this situation in Detroit. And it's just on and on and on and on. And the irony of it all is that these people are benefiting from policies that were designed to combat the negative stereotypes that existed prior to their access. Black people were denied because of unfounded stereotypes. And then we passed these laws that opened the floodgates. And what did the people do when they got in there? They reinforced the stereotypes that was there from the beginning. Unreal, Jackson has resigned from the Mississippi bar. Well, it's going to happen. Were there any black elites, black business owners that opposed integration? I think there were a few. I don't know them offhand. Do you know that blacks up north didn't really agree with Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement? History is kind of like brushed over it. Martin Luther King wasn't that welcome up north. He really wasn't. He was welcomed in the South. But by the time he got killed, it just turned into something else. And sometimes the death is required to actually seal the sale. Mo Fax, what's up? Mo Fax said a lot of these women in the hood with multiple dead children are witches. Yo, it's interesting. There's so many people that's dealing with occult practices and not anywhere near aware of what they're tangling with. There's no telling. You gotta be careful, man. Like who you be intimate with and all of these things. Okay, everybody, True. Who we talking about, True? He was ran out of Houston. Don't they got a church in Atlanta that worship Beyonce? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised though. wrong corruption case. Yeah, thank you, Orlando. Thank you. SB Fuller, yeah, but I'm not aware of anyone else. A lot of people, you know, they saw the writing on the wall. I don't know what kind of Faustian bargain. Oh, MLK. Oh yeah. He got ran out of Houston. He got ran out of a lot of places, man. They you know, this revisionist history. It's the same thing with like Malcolm. Malcolm didn't get run out of places, but he wasn't as popular when he was alive as he became when he was dead. And I've had this conversation with people that I think the Spike Lee movie X did a lot to popularize Malcolm. I mean, a whole lot. And it introduced a lot of people who weren't even alive when Malcolm was dead, when Malcolm got killed, to Malcolm. And this is the wizardry, the sorcery of the Hollywood industry, because it rewrites history. Infestation of witches. Yeah, there's a lot of them. They're in the clubs. You see them dressing like holiday. They're actually showing you who they are. And they may not even be aware of who they are, not yet. But eventually they figure it out and they embrace it. DEI was colored cronyism. I'll take that. That's right. The National Baptist Convention, the largest black historical Protestant denomination, opposed MLK. I don't even think MLK was an actual Christian. This has been, you know, discussed already. You know, Anthony said the movie influenced him. Listen, as a child in the 70s, nobody was talking about Malcolm X. In the 80s, they were talking about Farrakhan because he kind of cosplayed Malcolm, but he was still around and relevant. And then Spike did this movie, and X was resurrected. Listen, man, Malcolm, no disrespect, but Malcolm, he was homeless when he got killed. And he got killed in the Audubon Ballroom, which is the equivalent of a storefront church. And Bumpy Johnson allegedly had to pay for his funeral because he didn't have any money. So when they try to tell you that he was a threat to the government, where? How? His movement didn't even have any motion. What got him killed was bad-mouthing and exposing Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah had some fanatics. And if you look up the word Hanafi, Hanafi, the Hanafi killings in Washington, D.C., on New Jersey Avenue, I drove right past there a couple hours ago. The founder of the Hanafis was a former Nation of Islam member named Abdul Khalis. And he was writing letters to Elijah Muhammad with the same accusations as Malcolm. And the gangsters in the nation went to his house in New Jersey and they just missed him. And they killed everybody in the house, even drowned the babies in the bathtub. This is actual history. So there was absolutely a death penalty for speaking ill of Elijah Muhammad. And he did not have to give the order. He had some kind of arrangement with Jeremiah Shabazz and Sam Christian and them guys out of Philadelphia. The gangsters in the nation were out of Philly and out of Newark, New Jersey. And of course, the killers of Malcolm came out of Newark. And the killers for the Hanafis came out of Philly. And this is all documented. So when they say, you know, they want you to think that the government killed Malcolm and all this. There's a track record of the Nation of Islam killing people. And yes, the Nation of Islam may very well be some kind of a PSYOP or government agency, something to that effect. There's a picture that I have at Elijah Muhammad's funeral. In the picture, there was Louis Farrakhan, Jim Jones, the Jim Jones, Georgetown, don't drink the Kool-Aid Jim Jones. He was there, Farrakhan, and Fard Muhammad, a man claiming to be Fard Muhammad. They were all there together. And what did they have in common? I believe that they all were being controlled out of McLean, Virginia. That's just what I believe. You know, Jim Jones, certified MK Ultra candidate. And I believe Farrakhan is too. Because when Farrakhan gets to talking, he has this like deranged look in his eyes. You could see it in Farrakhan's eyes that that man is gone, bro. He's not there. He's in the sunken place for sure. Yeah, Orlando, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Abdul Khalis is the one who converted Lou Alcindor and gave him the name Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Correct. That is correct. They were members of the NOI Dusco. Yeah. You see, their job, as I understand it, you got to have a militant wing of any of your organizations, you know, and they did the dirty. They were like the special ops, man. And they also kept people in line. The fathers of those girls that Elijah was hiring as secretaries, as he described it, those guys would keep them in line too. But it was some kind of a, you know, it was some kind of a arrangement because they were involved in all kinds of criminal activities. And when you hear the talk about Malcolm meeting with KKK in Georgia, Jeremiah Shabazz was the one who, you know, who set that meeting up. Malcolm would have never met with the Klan unless he had some real thorough guys with him, and that was those guys out of Philly. Yes, correct, Mr. Warbucks. Yeah, though that was those guys out of Philly, man. They was like that. And people don't even understand, like when you hear JBM, Junior Black Mafia, like Biggie Smalls was rapping about, the JBM are actually the sons and nephews of the original Black Philly Mafia. NOI was being funded by H.L. Hunt. Yeah, Malcolm talked too much, and that's what got him killed. And he got killed at a time where he didn't even have money to protect himself. Brother Gene was an undercover NYPD officer, and they act like because he was security for Malcolm, like he was in on the hit. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He wasn't in on the hit. No. Oh, if Abdul Khalis, no, he didn't play. He didn't play no hand in Malcolm's death. Dusko, I think you're from D.C. Abdul Khalis got locked up because they took Marion Barry hostage, and Marion Barry got shot in the leg. And the dudes, you know, Abdul Khalis' course of action is confusing because he know that the nation killed his family, and instead of him, you know, saddling up and going to Philly and giving them their issue, he went to Marion Barry and took him as some kind of hostage or something, and they shot Marion Barry, and then they all surrendered and went to prison for the rest of their life, like some dumbasses. If you're ready to crash out, man, take your ass to Philly and go get with them NOI dudes and get them that work. Not Marion Barry. And Khalees, his own people had a they were ready to die with him. So when he said let's surrender, they was upset. Because they were all on a suicide mission. Whatever it was, they believed that taking Marion Barry hostage, they was going to somehow leverage that into causing problems for drawing attention, or whatever they had it in mind. It was just some nonsense. And halfway through it, they backed out of it, and Khalees died in prison. You know? The government poured a little gasoline on it. Well, man, one thing about black folks, you know, and if we're not good at anything else, we're really good at inflicting pain on each other. That's just the harsh reality of it. And we're eager to do it too. I mean, the way we attack each other verbally, physically, even our murder rate, it's as if we hate any semblance of who we are. Malcolm was disgruntled after, yeah, he was disgruntled. You know, Mr. Warbucks, this is just my conclusion from watching things. Malcolm recruited Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, he presented something to the nation they never had. Ali was witty, he was charismatic, he was a celebrity. He got into all these different places on all these big platforms. And he was drawing attention to the nation and making the nation money, because Elijah's son, Herbert Muhammad, was Ali's manager. Malcolm just couldn't compete. He actually recruited his replacement. Malcolm was the spokesman prior to that. And his oratory and his presence, it captivated certain people. But Ali was on a bigger stage. When you see footage of Malcolm speaking, do you ever notice they never show the crowd? Because it's never a big crowd. It's just not there. The camera's always on him. It never pans the throngs of people that he's addressing, unless it's at a Nation of Islam event. I think, you know, I think Malcolm was a great speaker. I've read the FBI transcripts on Malcolm, and yo, man, that guy was clean as the board of health. He was not a womanizer. He wasn't doing any of the things Dr. King and them was doing. But what I think he was a little bit narcissistic. And I think it's easy to become that when you get addicted to the adulation, you know, the roar of the crowd. It's intoxicating. You see it with you see it with entertainers. And once you get that addiction, you can't rehab off of it. Yeah, I believe he started the fire at the house in East Elmhurst as well. I think, you know, he did it just like him posing with the gun, and I think he was, you know, he was playing games with people who were deadly serious, and in the end it caught up to him. If you go on YouTube and you search Jeremiah Shabazz, right? They used to refer to him as the sound of thunder. So I met an older guy in New York who had known Jeremiah Shabazz. There's another set of Muslims that broke off from the nation. I don't know, he may have been with Wallace, I can't remember. Because he had a restaurant called Shabazz something around my neighborhood. And he told me that when you go to Jeremiah Shabazz's house, the doorknobs in the house were solid gold. Jeremiah Shabazz is he's like one of them guys, man, and like when he say something, people move. And people would kill for him, people would die for him. That's the kind of power that he had. And you go to YouTube and you Google, you search Jeremiah Shabazz and listen to him speak about Malcolm. Because Malcolm used to live with him when Malcolm went to Philly. Malcolm stayed in Philly for a little while. He talked about how lazy Malcolm was. That Malcolm didn't like to work. He just wanted to talk. You know how people just want to podcast and be on social media and be an influencer? When Jeremiah Shabazz describes Malcolm, that's what it sounds like he's talking about. And guess what? I believe him. I believe him. Yeah, it's an old tape. The man ain't got no reason to lie. He was very unimpressed with Malcolm when Malcolm was down there in Philly with him. Yeah. Because he's used to being around different types of men, not talkers, doers. And Malcolm was a talker. And I'm not sitting here trying to knock Malcolm. I'm just saying that, people have an appreciation for qualities they identify with. Like, let's say if you're a great hand-to-hand combat man, and you see another man and he do something that you understand how tight that was, you'll be like, yo, that's what's up. He knows something. You would have an appreciation for that because it's a reflection of who you are, who you want to be, so on and so forth. And that's the same thing with speakers. The guys who want to be known for talking and saying slick shit, when they see these speakers, these wordsmiths, as they're called, they are enamored with that because that's who they want to be. But there's other men who don't care about none of that shit, man. They just want to know, yo, when it's time to get busy, you ready? Let's go. And that's what they're impressed with. So Jeremiah Shabazz was not impressed with Malcolm. Not at all. West Indian Archie said, your rep is all you got. Yeah. Malcolm was always addicted to his rep. Well, I always say that my reputation is my credit score in life. So I preserve it and protect it fiercely. Because I don't have, endless riches and none of this stuff that I could buy things. A lot of stuff that I get done is based on my reputation. People move with me because of my track record. And it distinguishes me from the guy that likes to whisper sweet nothings in their ears. You know what I mean? So that I understand and appreciate the importance of a good reputation. That's what a credit score is, by the way. Your credit score is what lenders look at as your financial reputation. Can this guy handle debt? Does he pay his bills? Okay, yeah, we can lend him some money. This is his income? Okay, let's lend him some money. So your reputation functions the same way. And while I'm on it, I want to say that, I had flirted with the idea of running for mayor in New York City. And I no longer consider that to even be a remote possibility. And it's the more I pay attention to politics, the more I feel like it's all scripted and these people are all actors. And that being the case, I am not an actor. So one or two things is going to happen, you know. Well, only one thing's going to happen. I'll never get the support because I don't play ball. It's just that simple. Nah, man, I ain't messing with it. I do plan on moving back to New York though, but that's not why. I think it's all a sham, man. Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, thanks. I have a music industry question. Yayo and Bleak have been going back and forth about what Jay and 50 do for them. What responsibilities does a boss exec have to his artists? What makes someone a good boss in the industry? To me, it's the entertainment business, right? All you have to do to be a good boss is honor your contract. Whatever that contract is. If you honor it, you was a good boss. And now, it is the duty of every grown man in the business, regardless if he's his own boss or he's working for somebody. You know, he has to take advantage of his opportunities. Like, you know, I'll give you an example. And this is with someone who I love and respect, Chris Gotti. I think Chris Gotti, he was in the music business for so long at the side of his brother Irv. And maybe he was too busy, you know, watching Irv back and not setting up his own plays. Because now he's in a situation where it's tough for him to get things done, and it shouldn't be. And I think sometimes a lot of us, we get in the mix and we're around all of this opportunity, but we lose focus because we get caught up in the bright lights. And I think that happens to a lot of people, man. I don't care what 50 did or didn't do for Yayo, or what Jay did or didn't do for Memphis Bleak. They were in position to do something for themselves. And if they didn't do that, you can't blame the other guys. Oh, what's up, Colton? Good to see you, brother. How do? Oh man, my older kids, as far as I know, they love their younger brother. Like, yo, you know, as far as I know, for sure. You know, my son came a couple weeks ago, and he wanted to see his brother, and took some pictures with him. He said he wanted his brother to know that he was there from the start. I said, all right, that's all right with me. You know, as a matter of fact, the two of them look alike at the same age. Or Bleak said that exact thing. Well, Bleak is mature though. Tony Yayo, I don't know him. I can't say that he's immature, but he makes his money conducting himself as this immature character. It could just be an act. Nothing you desire can compare with her. In her left hand are the riches and honor. All right. That's what's up. I think the devil is about to be put in his place. Oh yeah. No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. You know I ain't standing for no funny business, Glasgow. Look, I got standards and I stand on it. Correct. Because I'm at a point, like, I've made some money. I've lost money. I've made money. I'm not rich. I'm not poor. And I'm not obsessed with materialism. I'm pursuing happiness, righteousness, comfortability. That's it. Yeah, I feel the same thing about Dame Dusko. He couldn't get out of his own way. Mayor Schoon, I can see it. I don't know, man. In Detroit, when Mike Duggan first became mayor, he became mayor as a write-in candidate. The voters went in the polls and wrote his name on the ballot. And that's how he won. Now, if I become a write-in candidate and the people demand, they go to the extent of writing my name on the ballot and I get elected, oh yeah, I would honor that. I'm not predicting that's happening. I'm not asking for that to happen. I'm just saying that if something to that extent happened, yeah, I would have to answer that call. But just looking at it now, like I want to be mayor, no, I don't. I know what's important to me, and my family's important to me, and I don't want to do anything that's going to potentially strain my family. Dude said anything possible in the Detroit election. Listen, I'm just hearing the news coming out of Detroit, and I'm just shaking my head. I honestly feel a little bad for Mary Sheffield. Yeah. I honestly feel a little bad for her. But speaking of kids, my son is supposed to get baptized this Saturday. And I'm just getting ready for that. And yeah, I just feel blessed to be able to run it back at this point in my life. And I don't know. My family come first, man. Their safety, their happiness, all of that, their normalcy, all of that. I just saw something. Somebody was saying their father was William. Did you delete your post, William? Yeah, William. I'm not really concerned about my private life, other than my family. If they dig in my dirt, I don't care. But I don't want my wife and kids to be exposed to any of that. Amen, Dave, for sure. Yeah, it's a Catholic church, Orlando. Yeah, it is. At work today, a little earlier, I listened to Andre Ward's boxing podcast featuring Zab Judah, and he stated he made the most money of his career under Don King Promotions. He said the only thing bad with his contract is that if you lose a fight, he offers you less money the next go round, which he says is standard in most boxing contracts. Yeah, it's great that Andre Ward said, who said that, Zab or Andre? Was it Zab? Not enough people say things. They don't tell the truth. They say that Don is a thief. Don't get me wrong. I think if he could get over on you, he will. That's all of them. I don't think he's a saint. But thief? Nah, I wouldn't call him a thief. Nah, I wouldn't call him that at all. Is Whitlock the Godfather? Hell no. Oh, Zab said that. Oh, okay. You know, I was on the phone with Zab, and I was trying to. He actually, I didn't arrange for him to be on the phone. A lot of people don't know that Zab is married to Jimmy Henchman's daughter. So Jimmy Henchman is Zab's father-in-law. So I was actually on the phone with Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy had Zab on the phone because of Zab for his position with that boxing app. What's the black, whatever the name of it is, but he's the CEO over there. And the episode of Born to Box that I was trying to get Jimmy to connect me to Shakim from Flavor Unit, who was really tied into Latifah heavily. Shakim is one of those guys that's like in the entertainment business, but he doesn't want his name known, or face or anything. And he's like down in Florida and plays golf every day, and he's set, man. He's good, you know. And Jimmy had Zab on the phone, and we were all talking. Nothing came of it. I was told something different about Zab and his thoughts on Don King, but maybe he was being politically correct when he was doing that interview. Or maybe I just got wrong information. I don't know. And there's no way Whitlock would be the godfather, you know. I mean, Whitlock is the godfather to Uncle Jimmy's kids. I'm sure it's not going to translate into anything for them. You know? It is what it is, man. I want my brother and my sister to be the godfather and godmother to my son. Man, the Catholic Church don't play, man. If you're married, they need to see that you are married in the Catholic Church to be a sponsor, is what they call it. And if you're not married, you gotta show your proof of confirmation. You have to have had your sacraments to be a sponsor of record in the church. And the crazy thing is, you can't even get baptized unless you have a Catholic sponsor, at least one, to be the godparent. You know, I asked them, when did they start this? Because Catholicism has been around for like 2,000 years, almost, right? When did the godfather trend start? When did you need a godparent to get baptized? When did any of this stuff start? It all seems to be like a modern, development to me. But hey, it is what it is. It's going regardless of if you became mayor, your impact for me is thank you, Glasgow. You're leaving a lasting legacy. Look, I'm dedicating the rest of my life to trying to do good and do positive. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah. It's not like I'm trying to, be a billionaire, Those are the type of goals like my son got. You know, he's 35, so he got to get that out of his system, and he might get it out of his system by actually making it happen. For me, I don't think like that, man. Over 2,000 years ago. All right, Orlando, I'm with it. Orlando, you're Latino, so what you say, Católico. Yeah, you're Católico. All right, you Catholic, my man. But yeah, that's the thing with me, Glasgow. You know, I'm just really just trying to I'm trying to be the best version of me, man. That's all. Trying to share information, not trying to impose my ways or will on anybody. And that's that. Remember, Jesus' godparents were blessed, Mary and Joseph. Okay, Orlando. All right. Look, Orlando going to start delivering a sermon for us over here. Yeah, but before we wrap it up, what else? Is there anything that I missed? The genesis of the tradition, okay. Is there anything that I missed? What happened? I was looking at the new, Trump, Iran, on again, off again. What a joke. Do you believe anything that they say about Iran? I don't. I don't believe any of it anymore. I'm just like, whatever. Ken Griffin saved the day. No, I didn't see that. Spain. Oh, yeah, one of my regulars, he's not here tonight, George. He's under the impression that thing with Spain was staged. Some people are blaming Israel and its relationship with Morocco and Spain's stance on Israel's recent policies, and it was done to punish them. I don't know enough about it, but I know very little is as it seems. How much time I'm always studying, William. I'm always studying. It's like with me writing the article, I could tell you right now that the state of Israel was established on May 14, 1948. But on the state of the apartheid state, when the Boers seized political dominance in South Africa, was May 27th, 1948. Just 13 days later. And there's a correlation there because the Jewish state and the apartheid state worked closely together militarily and on nuclear weapons. They were getting their uranium from South Africa. See, like if you talked to me last week, I wouldn't have known this. But because I'm always researching and I don't write fluff pieces, I'm constantly learning things, and that information I just gave you has never been put in one place. But because I understand patterns, I start looking for certain things, and voila, they start lining up for me, and yeah, it's interesting. And in 1987, the Israelis stopped supporting South Africa, and then next thing you know, they denuclearized right before Nelson Mandela came. All that is going to be in the article, by the way. But just to answer your question, how much do I study? I'm always studying, man. Everything. I just don't read books. I study information now. When I look at a book, the amount of information on one topic for me is more than I need. because I need just enough information to help me formulate my thoughts better and make them more accurate. That's the point of my life that I'm in now, because I've read a lot of books. That's why I have an extensive vocabulary and can write the way that I write. But now, the information that I have in the books, it's time for me to incorporate that with new information and draw my own perspective, my own unique perspective, which is why I like writing more than reading. Because when I read a lot, and reading is good, because you have to take in other people, it sparks something inside of me that make me think. And I understand that the author is writing because this is how they see something, right? But there's always different ways to look at things, and that's what I explore as a writer. I'm not interested in regurgitating someone else's perspective. I'm not here to prove them wrong, right? But I look for other possibilities when it comes to information and studying. That's what I study for. I look at things and say, yo, this is what it says, this is what it looks like, but what else can it be? And that's where I start expanding my bandwidth. They're saying we're almost out of ammo. Yes, I've heard that, Glasgow. And that China is now supplying Iran with weaponry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to believe in none of that. The good word says, show thyself approved so you can rightly divide the word of truth. Studying is mandatory as a man. Absolutely. 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 Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. It's like 9:31. I got so much going on. I appreciate you guys. I'm committed to an hour and a half every week. And you know, for the people who don't have the app, download the ScoonTV app. Yes, Samuel, Spain, correct. Download the ScoonTV app. Check out the new documentary, The Criminalization of Rap documentary. There's an article called The Criminalization of Rap, and there's a documentary called The Criminalization of Rap. Check out both. But right now, the documentary is on the homepage, and it's at the top in the features on the app. Check it out. Very, very entertaining, informative, and all of that. A lot of stuff that you maybe missed out on. And I'm here to help connect the dots. And hopefully, like when some of you guys share information, you help me connect the dots as well.